Okay, so have you ever had this happen? Like you're talking about something important, and the words are just there, and then you say something that's not quite right grammatically.
Yeah, like it's right there, but you just can't.
You know how it should be, but it just comes out wrong.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to deep dive into why these grammar slip-ups happen, even when we feel like we know better. And you shared with me this really helpful guide called Why Am I Making So Many Grammar Mistakes When Speaking?
Yeah, it's a great guide. It really digs into like 5 key reasons why this happens, like even for people who are, relatively fluent.
Yeah, fluent English speakers.
Yeah.
And it's not about, memorizing all these rules. It's more about understanding why are we making these mistakes?
Exactly. Yeah, it's about getting to the root of it.
So we can fix them.
Yeah, because if you know why you're doing something wrong, then you can kind of figure out a way to do it right.
Makes sense. Okay, so one of the things that the guide mentioned was like nervousness, how nervousness can actually mess with our working memory.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. It's like your brain is trying to do so many things at once, right?
Right.
And trying to manage the stress of speaking.
Right.
You're searching for the right words. And then in the back of your mind, you're also trying to remember all these grammar rules.
Right.
And sometimes something's got to give.
And it's usually the grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like we don't know the rules. It's just that our brain is temporarily overloaded.
Yeah, it's like overload.
Yeah.
And it just kind of dumps out whatever's easiest.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about when we're not feeling nervous though? What about overthinking?
Right.
I know the guide mentioned that one.
Overthinking is a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you get so caught up in trying to speak perfectly that you end up overanalyzing every sentence.
Every word.
Every word. And that just really like...
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
Disrupts the natural flow of speaking. Yeah, it's like...
You're thinking too much.
Yeah, you're in your head too much instead of just letting the words come out.
Right. And the guide actually compared it to like analysis paralysis.
Yes.
Where you're so busy thinking about the rules that you trip over your own words.
Yeah, and that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Because it really is like you're frozen. You can't move forward because you're thinking too much.
And then we completely forget what we were going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so nervousness, overthinking. What about like our native language? I feel like that can play a role as well.
Oh, absolutely. Our native language can be a sneaky saboteur.
Right. Like when we try to directly translate from our native language to English and it comes out grammatically incorrect.
Exactly. And different languages have different structures.
Right.
So our brains kind of get stuck in those old patterns.
Yeah.
So like, for example, some languages don't use articles like a or the in the same way that English does.
Oh, right.
So you might hear someone say like, I go to a store instead of I go to the store.
Right. I've heard that happens all the time.
It's a very common mistake.
That's really interesting. So it's like our brains are trying to be efficient, but sometimes that backfires when we're learning a new language.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so we've got nervousness, we've got overthinking native language, and then the guide also talked about vocabulary gaps.
Yes.
So how does that play a role?
Well, sometimes we just don't have the right words at our fingertips.
Right.
You know what you want to say, but you just don't have that perfect word.
Yeah.
And so you end up like kind of forcing words in that don't really fit grammatically.
Right.
And that's where the mistakes come in.
Yeah, like using good instead of well to describe an action.
Yeah, exactly. Or, using a simpler word when, there's a more nuanced word that would fit better, but you just can't think of it in the moment.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm starting to see how all of these things kind of work together.
Yeah, they all kind of feed into each other.
Yeah, but knowing the why is only half the battle. Like, how do we actually start to fix these things and speak more grammatically, more confidently?
Well, that's where the guide gets really interesting because it gives us like a whole bunch of actionable strategies to help overcome these challenges.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's dive into those.
All right, let's do it.
All right, lay it on me. What are these strategies?
Okay, so the first one, and this might seem obvious, but it's practice. But the guide doesn't just say, practice more. It actually talks about how to practice effectively.
Ooh, okay. I like that, strategic practice.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing it suggests is to treat practice like a workout.
Okay.
So instead of, just randomly chatting in English whenever you feel like it, actually schedule regular conversation sessions.
Oh, okay. So like put it in my calendar.
Exactly.
Like Tuesday, 7 p.m. English practice.
Yes, exactly. Like you would schedule a gym visit.
Gotcha.
And think about, who you're practicing with.
Right.
There are a lot of great language exchange apps out there.
Oh, yeah.
Like Hello Talk, for example.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. And you can connect with native speakers who are learning your language.
Right.
So you can kind of help each other out.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
It is. And it's definitely more motivating than, just talking to yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we've got scheduled practice. What else is in there?
Well, another big one, and I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, is embracing fluency over perfection.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Because it's so easy to get caught up, in trying to get every sentence perfectly correct.
Oh, yeah. I get stuck in my head all the time trying to be perfect, and then I just don't say anything.
Right. And the guide actually talks about this. It defines fluency as being able to get your ideas across smoothly and naturally.
Okay.
Even if you make a few mistakes along the way.
So it's not about being perfect. It's just about getting your message across.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one way to kind of work on this is to set speaking goals that focus on quantity over quality. So like challenge yourself to speak for a certain amount of time without stopping. Even if you make a few grammatical errors.
So it's like giving myself permission to make mistakes.
Yeah, in a way it is. It's about shifting your focus from avoiding errors to just like getting the words out there.
I like that. That takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah. And the goal is to build confidence and momentum.
Okay, so we're practicing regularly. We're not worrying so much about making mistakes. And what about like listening to native speakers?
Oh, yeah, that's another great one. You already mentioned watching movies and listening to podcasts.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
That's great. But the key is to listen actively.
Okay, so how do I do that?
So pay attention to the rhythm and flow of their speech, how they phrase things, the words they choose.
So it's not just having it on in the background.
Right.
It's really like tuning in.
Yeah, really paying attention.
Okay.
And a good way to do this is to like pick a specific podcast or show that's known for its clear and natural English.
Oh, okay. Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, there are so many great options. Let's see. The Daily is a good one. Very Conversational Radio Lab is fantastic for storytelling.
Okay.
And then Stuff You Should Know has a wide range of topics, and they do a really good job of explaining things clearly.
I've heard of all of those. I'm going to have to check those out.
Yeah, they're great.
Okay, so we've got active listening, strategic practice. What else?
Remember how we talked about that feeling of cringe when you hear yourself making mistakes?
Oh, yeah. Big time. But you're going to tell me I should record myself, aren't you?
I am. It might feel awkward.
It does.
But it's honestly one of the best ways to identify those recurring grammar patterns that you might not even realize you're making.
Yeah, like you don't realize you're doing it until you hear it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we make the most of this self-recording torture?
Yeah.
The guide suggests choosing a topic that you're comfortable talking about.
Okay.
Speak about it for, a few minutes. Record yourself.
Uh-huh.
And then listen back specifically for grammatical errors.
So like I'm my own grammar coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about self-awareness.
Okay.
And once you know what you need to work on, you can focus your practice and study on those specific areas.
Okay, that makes sense. And there are probably a ton of resources online that can help with that too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are websites like Grammarly and Purdue OWL.
I've heard of Grammarly.
Yeah. They're fantastic resources for brushing up on the rules.
Okay.
And they have quizzes and interactive exercises.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah, to make learning more engaging.
I like that.
And they even have features that analyze your writing and point out grammatical errors in real time.
Wow, that's cool.
It's like having a digital grammar tutor
I like that.
right on your shoulder.
All right, so we've got a lot of tech tools that we can use. And then, of course, there's always like the good old-fashioned grammar workbooks.
Yes, always a classic.
Yeah, back to basics.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that's all you need.
Right.
Just to like refresh those fundamental rules.
Okay, so lots of tools available. So we've got active listening, we've got recording ourselves, practicing regularly, not being afraid to make mistakes. What about the native language thing?
Right. So for that, the guide has a really interesting suggestion.
Yeah.
It says, try translating your thoughts from your native language into English.
Oh, okay.
It sounds simple, but it actually forces you to kind of confront those subtle differences in grammar and sentence structure.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I'm making my brain work.
Yeah, you're giving it a workout.
Yeah.
And it helps you become more aware of those common pitfalls that trip us up because of our native language.
Like the articles.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
So, for example, if you tend to omit articles because your first language doesn't use them,
right.
by constantly translating your thoughts into English, you'll be more likely to remember to include them.
So I'm like training my brain.
Yeah, you're training your brain.
To think in English.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. And then I feel like the last piece of this puzzle is vocabulary.
Yes, vocabulary is key.
Like the more words we have, the better we can express ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the guide really emphasizes this. The more words you have at your disposal, the less likely you are to make grammatical errors out of necessity.
It's like having a bigger toolbox.
Exactly. The more tools you have, the better equipped you are.
Yeah.
So the guide suggests reading widely, learning new words and contexts, and even using flashcards.
Ooh, I love flashcards.
Flashcards are great.
Yeah.
They're a really good way to review and reinforce.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
New words.
I'm going to make some flashcards.
Do it.
Yeah.
And you can make them fun, Add pictures, use different colors to categorize words.
Okay.
Make it your own.
I'm feeling very motivated right now.
I love it. It's really all about finding what works best for you and making it a part of your regular routine.
Awesome. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From, the science behind these grammar slip-ups to all these awesome strategies for improving our spoken English. But I feel like there's got to be one last little nugget of wisdom in that guide.
You're right. There is one more thing. It's a really important point that I think sometimes gets lost in the whole grammar learning process.
Oh, okay. What's that?
It's the idea that, true fluency isn't just about grammatical accuracy.
Okay.
It's about connecting with other people, expressing yourself authentically,
Yeah.
and really sharing your unique perspective with the world.
Wow. I love that. That's beautiful. And it really puts things in perspective. It's not about, just memorizing rules.
Yeah.
It's about using language as a tool.
Exactly.
For connection, for communication.
Yeah. And sometimes I think focusing too much on grammar can actually get in the way of that.
How so?
Well, it could make us hesitant to speak up,
Right.
afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, we don't want to sound stupid.
Exactly. And then ultimately, we end up being less effective communicators.
Right, because we're so worried about every little thing. So it's about finding that balance between accuracy and fluency. We want to, try to get the grammar right, but not at the expense of losing our natural flow.
Right.
And confidence.
Absolutely.
I like that.
And that's why, the guide really encourages us to embrace those imperfections along the way.
Okay.
Mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah, we're all going to make them.
We are, and they're actually valuable learning opportunities.
And that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so instead of, beating ourselves up over every little error,
Yeah.
we can view them as stepping stones.
Ooh, I like that, stepping stones.
Yeah, on our path to fluency.
That's awesome.
It's a much healthier mindset.
It is, and it makes the whole process less intimidating, I think.
Exactly. And remember, fluency is a journey,
Yeah.
not a destination.
Right.
There's always room for improvement, new vocabulary to learn, nuances of grammar to master.
Yeah, you're never really done learning.
Exactly.
I love that. So we've really unpacked a lot in this deep dive today, learned a lot of cool strategies, and really reframed our thinking about grammar and fluency. But before we let you go, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
That's a challenge.
So what is one small step that you can take today to improve your spoken English?
That's a good one.
Maybe it's scheduling that conversation practice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's listening to a podcast in English.
That's a good one.
Maybe it's, reviewing some grammar rules.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
make it a conscious choice and commit to it.
Yes.
Even small actions taken consistently can lead to remarkable progress over time.
Absolutely. So true. So remember, you're capable of achieving fluency. Embrace the journey, enjoy the process, and never stop learning.